What's up, you bunch of WordPress nerds? In this video, I wanted to go over an episode of Syntax FM that I listened to recently, where Wes Boss and Scott Tolinski, the host of the show, talked about how GUIs, graphical user interfaces, may or may not be taking over certain parts of the web development community, specifically the jobs. And so I wanted to do a quick video on that and how this may or may not affect us in the WordPress community. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make sure you get notified of my weekly WordPress videos. All right, let's jump into it. All right, let's take a look here. So I want to mainly answer the question, are freelance WordPress jobs in danger? And this goes back to what I said a second ago about the episode of Syntax FM, where they're talking about graphical user interfaces affecting jobs in our area. And specifically, WordPress kind of seems to be at the nexus of that. And so I want to kind of just go through what I think the actual concern is, and you can decide whether or not this actually applies to you. So, in my opinion, there are three types of jobs in the WordPress area. There's the theme and plugin area, whereas you're creating custom themes and custom plugins, whether or not they're for public distribution or if they are for a client. On top of that, there is the drag and drop developer, which is essentially installing a plugin like Elementor or Beaver Builder or something like that, and dragging and dropping stuff around until the client kind of gets the look and feel that they're wanting. And then finally, headless WordPress, which is using WordPress as an API and then having something on the front end to pick up that data and display it, such as Gatsby. So what I have here is I have a chart of the market share for, some of the most popular content management systems out there. And what I want to do is I want to focus on the last 5 years, mainly because it's a nice round number. And then also on top of that, there is, that's the year after everything kind of like was launched. And so it helps to kind of paint the whole picture of how these things have grown over the past 5 years. So if we look at WordPress, it's grown by 3.3%. And when you put that into perspective of how much the market share of WordPress is when you are talking number of sites out of all the websites, that's a huge number. So really good there. Joomla's gone down by almost 50%. Shopify has increased by 428%. Drupal's gone down by 43%. Squarespace has gone up by 420%. And Wix has gone up by 666% over the past 5 years. So those are pretty large numbers in both directions for a lot of these guys. So this is mainly kind of just to illustrate kind of what's happening outside of WordPress and hopefully kind of add some perspective to what I'm going to talk about. So what do those numbers actually mean? It means that WordPress is growing, and it's still growing at a very good rate. But so is its competition. And so what are these services actually doing? What are they competing against in WordPress's space? Well, they're competing against page builders like Elementor, Beaver Builder, Oxygen, and Gutenberg. They are also competing against e-commerce plugins that exist inside of WordPress, which is like WooCommerce, WP Commerce, Easy Digital Downloads, all those things. That is something that these other companies are like, you know what, we can do that better. And so how does this actually affect, us as freelancers or us as just WordPress developers in general? Well, I think that if you are the person who is marketing yourself as a drag and drop developer, it's like, you know what, that's a lot of work. That can be kind of scary. Let me do that for you. Let me drag that stuff around. Let me get you set up on WordPress. I can help you get a calendar on there. I can get you a gallery and some pages and a blog, and let me show you how to do it. That kind of space is going to shrink. The client pool for that is going to decrease. I feel like that's kind of when we talk about the title of this topic, are freelance jobs in danger? That's the space that I truly feel like is in danger. That is the one where you're going to see these places like Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify start to take people away from that. Why is that? So I think that the reason why drag and drop developers are around to begin with is because WordPress can be kind of daunting. There's so many videos out there about how to try and get WordPress up and running. Like, there have been hosting companies that try and just like, all right, one-click installs, and then you can also have, Elementor installed too, that kind of stuff. And they're trying to make that as seamless as possible. But Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify just kind of have all that bundled in. Like, this is a one-stop shop to get your website up, your domain, your hosting, your editing experience, your blog, your store, all that kind of stuff is here. Just pay us, a couple bucks a month and we got you covered. And so they're making that a much easier process than how we have it here in WordPress. So that's going to take people away. And when you look at those numbers that we were just looking at, 420% increase, 666% increase, like those numbers are astronomical. So that is going to affect those jobs. And I think it's going to take a small bite out of custom theme development as well. And the reason why that is because not just because their page builders exist, it's more about like that these page builders are starting to become a little bit better at making things customizable. They're starting to get smarter. So people who would normally be like, I need this done and I can't accomplish it inside of this page builder, I'm just going to hire a developer and just have them do the whole thing for me. That is going to be less of a thing, but I don't really even know if you're going to see it that much. And then obviously for headless WordPress, that's kind of like an enterprise kind of thing unto itself that I don't really think that these page builders are going to take too much out of. If you're using headless WordPress, you kind of know what you want from top to bottom, and you're not going to get that out of these other sites. So ultimately, with that kind of space shrinking in the drag and drop land, is that good news or bad news? And I think the short answer here is that it is both. It is good news and it is bad news. The bad news is that you're going to simply see a decrease in the client pool. That's simply less money that is out there for you to go grab. And that is tough. That is something that is going to be hard to recover from if you don't have other skills to fall back on. Same with theme and plugin developers. You're going to have a slight decrease in the client pool simply because those page builders are getting smarter. The good news, the downsides of Wix, Squarespace, and Shopify are blaring, in my opinion. Like when you go to Shopify and you set up a store with them, at some point you are going to be paying them a percentage of your sales. And that can mean a lot of money that is essentially down the drain because you don't own your store. And I mean that in quotes. Like you don't own the things that, Shopify is charging you that percentage to essentially take care of payments, to be on there, that kind of stuff. And that's a large chunk of money. And then not to mention that the add-ons that they have are expensive. Wix and Squarespace, kind of same thing. Their prices get pretty pricey once you start getting up there. So and that's forever. So that's as long as you've got the site, you're having to pay those premiums because they have that kind of those page builders built in. On top of that, they're templatized for the most part. You're going to start to see like, you know what, this feels like a Squarespace or Wix site or a Shopify store, like especially the checkout process, like almost instantly when you're like on a Shopify checkout. So if you're wanting something more custom, it's simply and you want to go off the rails a bit, it becomes extremely hard. And then that reduces your scalability as a business. Then on top of that is speed. There is just so much stuff that they're trying to handle in these tools, these giant tools, that speed kind of becomes an apparent issue the further that you kind of get into this. And can't tell you how many times I've been reached out to about like, hey, we need help with our site. I ask what it's on, and they say like Wix, and it's like, oh, Well, there you go. That's why things are starting to get a little bit slow. Speed is not necessarily the number one thing in the mind of those services. But the other good news here is that when we have, and what I mean by the other downsides, having downsides means that there's room for us as developers to kind of step in and have a better option that we can offer, like basically one-time fees. Essentially, it's like, we'll build you the site for this much money and you can edit everything that you want, and it'll be fast and it'll be unique. And that's something different that we can offer. And I think that's great, because that kind of work is now just stuff we don't have to do anymore, where, people don't really care that they're going to drop that much money, or they're going to have a templatized site and speed. Like, that wasn't really the job that we wanted anyway. Well, we want to do this custom stuff and this stuff that we're proud to throw on our portfolio. That's kind of what I mean when this is good news. And then the other point is that we now have an opportunity to grow. If we are a drag and drop developer and we're mainly installing Elementor and we're drag and dropping stuff around, those other tools like Wix and Squarespace are making it way easier to do that. So that is now kind of the wake up call, I feel like, to jump into something a little bit more custom, kind of like the stuff that I was talking about, unique theme development, unique plugin development, etc., headless WordPress and all that. So basically, in conclusion, I think that drag and drop jobs are dwindling, and they're dwindling fast. I think, over the next, couple years, the pool is going to start, you're going to start to notice it. That more people are just going to those other services, and you're not going to see as many people asking for this type of service. I think that if you are in that space, now is a good time to start learning theme development or some other development in general, where you are in there writing code. You are doing the kind of stuff that you can't do inside of those drag and drop interfaces. That's the kind of space where you need somebody to go in and make those custom solutions for clients. And we always need more developers in that space. The big asterisk to all this is that it's not like completely forget about drag and drop builders and just kind of hate them or anything like that. They still can provide jobs as well, where you are adding customizability to them. Like, for example, I'm currently working on a project where it's like, we like Elementor's interface, but we want none of the widgets. We want our all custom widgets. So we're creating, dozens and dozens and dozens of these custom widgets inside of Elementor, because they have a very specific, design system, very specific way they want these things to work, but they want to be able to drag and drop the stuff in. And that's kind of a cool project, in my opinion, because they get kind of the customized layouts, they get the customized functionality, but they get the nice drag and drop interface. So we as developers can leverage that as something that we now can do. But we're doing a lot of code, and that is something that you definitely is kind of my bottom line here, is if you don't know how to code, you should probably learn how to code in this kind of space. So long story short, I think that, drag and dropping and that page builder stuff, having somebody paying somebody to do that for them, that's not going to be super long for this world. But custom theme and plugin development, headless WordPress, those topics are going to be the ones that I would put my money on right now. So I really want to know what you guys think about this. This is, again, just my opinion, and what do I know? I just am, kind of talking about what I think. And so I would really like to hear what you guys have to think about this one. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Do you think drag and drop developers have a job 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Do you think that theme and plugin developers aren't going to, but drag and drop developers will? Who knows? We're just kind of speculating at this point. So I want to hear from you. I really do. So if you liked the video, though, give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Thank you to my patrons up above. I really appreciate you guys. I couldn't do it without you. And really, thanks to all the support you guys have shown. We're at 5,000 subscribers now. That is definitely was a pipe dream a year ago. So I really thank you guys for showing that support. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next one.